1, 2. Okay, hello. What I'm going to go through with you today is the fresh install I did today, not today, a couple of days ago, March 2026, of ComfyUI, because I needed to. I've updated all the underlying structure, the Python, the whole thing, totally fresh, new install. I didn't film myself doing it while I did it because I didn't know the outcome. It actually took part of a day and was surprisingly painless given the experience I had last time I had to do this, which was back in May or so, probably before that, 2025, and installing Triton and Sage Attention was a nightmare back then. It's not exactly, it's confusing a little bit still, but I'm going to go through it. But the first caveats I have to really declare immediately are, firstly, I cannot give you tech support, and don't expect it. And I'm sharing this because this was my experience, and it's as a guide only, and your setup will be different. The things that happen might be different. The choices you have to make will be different. So do not just blindly follow what I do here. This is just going to give you an example of someone who's been working with ComfyUI for a year. I know the ins and outs of it fairly well. I wouldn't even call myself an expert, but definitely for the underlying stuff. But working my way through it, I kind of know how to, and it takes me a day to do it. The other thing to say is it's been a roaring success. I did have some problems, but I'll talk about them. But the result is that, well, I'll talk about the versions in a minute, but yeah, it all worked really well. It's running fine. There are a few problems, but it's sped everything up, and it's everything I could wish it could be, because you're never going to have it 100% easy in this game. Without further ado, let me get on, and I'm just going to go through my notes and talk you through how I went about it, and some of the pitfalls to watch out for, and also, just to reiterate, your setup will be different. This is a guide only, all right? So let me start by saying what I'm on. I'm on Windows 10. I have a 3060 RTX NVIDIA card. If you have AMD, don't follow this. You need to find a different way, and I don't know what it is. AMD card. I have an AMD CPU. That's different. So CPU, GPU, you need to understand all this kind of terminology. I also only have 32 gig of system RAM. My 3060 RTX card has 12 gig of VRAM. It was taking a gamble because what I was on, let's just go to my website, which will be up. There'll be a pre-upgrade and post-upgrade, but this is what I was on. The hardware stays the same. What I had here was, what I was on was Python 3.12, pytorch 2.7, Sage Attention 2.1, CUDA, which is the NVIDIA stuff, 12.8. I have version 591.74 is the studio driver on my NVIDIA card. I haven't changed that. I'm kind of cautious of going for the latest with those, because after experiencing some black screen problems and discovering it was the card once, so I tend to go with the last known good driver and keep it up to date to the last known good driver. I've also removed all these switches except for the ones that come with it. I think it's good to start at a baseline when you start. It's very likely I might have to put that one back in, but for now I'm not, and so far it's actually working really well, and I can push through the ohms. I tested it all yesterday. So, but more on that shortly. What else? Yeah, that's worth reading, but it's not relevant to this. So the plan was to get to, let's look at that again, to upgrade Python to what you get no choice now, by the way. ComfyUI portable version will force you to Python. If you download the latest, which I did, which I wanted to, it will force you to Python 3.13. I think I then installed the rest, but I installed pytorch 2.10. I don't believe my 30X can make use of anything above it. I installed Sage Attention 2.2. I don't believe I can make use of anything above it, and I stored CUDA 13.0. It went well, and it's worth it if you can do it, but you need to check if your card can handle it. So it turns out mine can. I didn't know that for sure. I asked Kichai and he said yeah, and he was right. He's not always right, but he often is. Anyway, back to the matter in hand. So that was the plan. I didn't know how long it'd take. I needed it because if you're going to go to LTX 2.3 and if you're going to want to keep updating ComfyUI and all your custom nodes, ComfyUI are forcing us to go to PyTorch 210 and CUDA 130. I believe this is true. They have given us a reprieve on some things, but just showing you, I've got Comfy, the new version running, and I just want to show you some other things. Oops, I shouldn't have shown you that. I'm going to have to change my LTX key now. Actually use it, but I'll have to change it. All right, yeah, so you'll see I've put my LTX key there. It's probably not the best way to do it, actually, because if you do a restart in the way I do it, it doesn't actually load it up again. So that's setting it as an environment variable. And I've yet to look into that. That'll come up later. So ComfyUI, we're going through here. This is what you get when you start ComfyUI. As you can see, I'm now on Python version. If you install a new ComfyUI Portable, as I have done, if you do it today, you'll probably get that version of Python. Down here, these are some of the nodes I've been installing. And I had some problems with some, so I've got a couple of issues, and I'll talk about them as I get to them. I've got some weird messages here. Is when you first do these, you need to kind of look at them, but don't try and fix everything. I don't know what this is, but I'm not having problems, so future warning, that means future problem I'll deal with in the future. But it's kind of weird. I don't know. You often don't get enough information to work everything out. I have no idea what this shit is, but it was... I had another message with it for this Triton bit, which she wasn't happy about and I had to fix. I don't recall what I did. Here you go. So yeah, I'm on PyTorch version 210, CUDA 13, CUDA 1.3. I've left everything running, pin memory. I had problems with that before. It seems to be working very well now. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it, is one of my mottos with all this. What else we got? Nothing, you know, there's stuff to look at. I don't think this is just messaging. I haven't got all those installed at all. In fact, the only ones I've installed are the ones with a Y. Registration all looks healthy. I haven't installed Fantasy Portrait, the Onyx. There's stuff you have to look at, and it just you could spend weeks doing it, and I just go for the worst of it initially, and then I'll start installing my nodes after I've got it successfully running. And this stuff's still around, and I hope that will go away, and I don't know what it means or what it relates to, but it's clearly part of their setup, so I'm now even less worried about it because that came with it. Now, where will I begin? I'm just going to walk you through what I did. Let me just check this is all still running. Yes, it is. Okay. I thought I might have to update the NVIDIA drivers. It seems I didn't need to, so I'm going to leave them alone. I've already told you about my hardware. I've already told you I do have an AMD desktop CPU. It does not matter. What matters is if you have an AMD GPU as opposed to an NVIDIA GPU, you might not even be able to get Comfy to work. People do, but it clearly is a fiddly issue. So step one, disable the Copia backup and the current ComfyUI and rename the folder. So yeah, I did exactly that. And let me just talk you through, if I can, what I did there. So the first thing is I had my old ComfyUI was called ComfyUI. So I renamed it old ComfyUI. I stuck the old on the front hoping that it wouldn't accidentally see that. What I discovered was something still tracked it, but it was okay. Inside there, I had some folders that I'd made and I had the portable. I download, I also use Copia, which is a rather funky backup method to back up to my N drive, and it stores everything there. in Copia. I don't worry too much about that. What I don't store is models and everything like that, because when your Comfy doesn't have models, it's about, yeah, it's not small. It'll load up. The more things you install, the more things it'll add. So 13 gig when you've not got the models folder. When you've got the models folder, yeah, that's where you start ending up. So it's nearly a terabyte in size with all the models, and everyone's will be different, but that's because I've copied all the models over from the old one, but I'll worry about that in a bit. So anyway, you rename the old one, ignore all that, and you disable any backups you've got going on of it, which I also did, but this is the new one. As you can see, I'm not backing everything up. And Copy is pretty cool. You can restrict what it does and set it to do backups across drives, and yeah, I use that nowadays. Yes, it's free, open source. Step 2, download the correct version. Yeah, so I was flying blind. Where else but ComfyUI themselves, and they've got a convenient little how to install a portable one. So I walked through that, I clicked on that and downloaded it, and I downloaded it too. And then I expanded it here, and it expanded it into a ComfyUI folder and into there like it had happened here. But I didn't want that because it starts getting too deep. I've noticed in Windows has a limit on, you know, you start getting down here, you've got 250 characters before you start hitting problems for some Windows machines. So I might even rename that. I didn't want to risk mucking it up in some way, so I haven't yet, because it's working so well, and as soon as it's working, I'm just running with it. I don't want to fiddle about anymore. Oh yeah, there it is, what I downloaded, and expanded it to here. In fact, I can delete that now. So I pulled it out of the ComfyUI folder it was in and plopped it there. These are just things I make, my workflows, my dev notes, and leaving them in there for now is old stuff for training. So this is the main folder. You can ignore all this. This is the main folder. It all happens under here. You're probably fairly familiar with it. Yeah, I won't get distracted. So where do I go next? Go through the install instructions. Yeah, so you know, you're not going to go wrong if you follow these instructions here. They're going to be the most up to date, so follow them. There wasn't much to it. You can, you know, read it. I won't reiterate it. You can look at that. That was it. Launch. So it kind of went so quickly. I was like, what, is that it? And so the initial launch went fine. And the other thing it freaked me out with was how fast. Like the moment I opened it, bang, it was there. Everything was in red, obviously, because none of the custom nodes were installed. But it really happened fast. So that was very promising. And I'd forgotten just how easy that was, because it's portable. It doesn't have to install. You just unpack it and run it, literally. So, you know, give it that first test run, and you do that by double clicking on that, or you have a batch file that does it. And let me just show you what mine looks like at the moment. You know, you get that. That's in there. I added that in because the thing that really threw me was there was no manager. So that you couldn't. I was going through here looking for ways to add in stuff. There's nothing, and there's also not a restart button, and I still haven't decided on how best to address that. And the other thing you might notice is all my Crystal info is gone. And what I did was I went through the old method of installing the old ComfyUI Manager and Crystals, and I installed them first, and I restarted, and honestly it just sat here for ages loading them up and wheeling, and then eventually went in and I was like, why am I even doing that? So I deleted them again, and instead put in Enable Manager there, started it, and you get this thing. And I'll be honest, I don't like it. It's quite hard to work with, but it boots up fast, so I'll stick with it. And it's got one quirk where sometimes you click on install and then you check and nothing's happening while it's saying it's installing here, and you check on your downloads And here, if you're on Windows 10, this is a rather cool thing. Bitmeter OS. It's GitHub. It doesn't keep it updated, but the old one works really nicely, and it's great for tracking if anything's downloading and where from, but how much you've done that day. But anyway, that's a aside. Yeah, so I'm not a big fan of this Nodes Manager, but to be honest, it boots up fast, so I'll keep it for now. It's not very good for working stuff out. It sometimes shows you, it doesn't even show you what nodes are in there. Oh, no, it doesn't show you. Some it does, some it gives you pretty pictures like that. So in some ways it's good, in some ways it's bad. I still don't have a restart button, but I just restart by either control seeing that or literally just clicking on X, get rid of it, and then booting up again. It's as fast as restart anyway. Anyway, so, and then Chris Tools, I went, well, do I even look up here at all the info it gives me? And I don't anymore, because as you will know, if you followed me long enough, I use this thing, which is the Process Explorer, free from Microsoft, and it's way more informative, really. And you can dig down into what's blapping. Look, this is blapping because the GPU blap because I'm running OBS Studio. I've talked about that before, and my VRAM's here, and you know, my paging memories all out here. So I have it on a second screen, so it's always there. So I actually don't need this crystals anymore, other than for the temperature. And for that, to be honest, I would use Crystals itself, which is Crystal Disk Info. And I'll show you another thing here, which is a really cool, highly recommended. It just runs manually, and it'll tell you where all your drives are at. And this is quite important for SSD, because you need to know when your SSD is reaching a point at which it's going to want to fail. And it also gives you the temperature of everything. And I live in Australia, a very hot, I'm stood here naked, which is why you're not seeing me. You didn't need to know that, but it's a hot country, things get hot. I have to have fans. I've got the side of my machine open all the time. I have I was going to say Bunsen burner, but it's called my MSI Afterburner. I mean, it is a Bunsen burner, but I've used this to undervolt it, so it's not burning at high rates, because I'm not a gamer. I don't need it blapping like a mofo. There you go, you can see my version of the driver there, just a studio version. But yeah, you know, there's ways you want to monitor your stuff, but you probably really want better than just what that Crystal's in here. You want proper monitoring stuff, so I use that and get used to using it, and then you know where you're at all the time and can check it any minute. These are all asides. Let's get back to the matter in hand. So, installing ComfyUI. Yeah, we're now forced to PyTorch 2.10 and CUDA 13 as of March 2026. So yeah, it's but it went fine for me. You know, you guys with even lower VRAM, I don't know how it's going to go for you. I'd be interested to hear. Let me know if it works out for you. Yeah, so I've got a note here. The only error I had at this stage was in the Comfy Kitchen backend. It said Triton's not there, and that's when I went, oh yeah, I haven't actually installed Triton yet. And that's where the hard stuff comes, is with these Triton PyTorch Shades Attention wheels. Now, these are my notes. I'm going to talk to you through them. So we're up to here. I told you about that error there. It booted up fine first time round. Now it talks about this next bit in here about the models path. I mucked around with, where is it? I mucked around with the models. I mucked around with that before. I've also tried symlinks, pointing to hard disk drives, keeping the models on there. I really highly recommend you don't. It's extra speed you get for keeping your models on an SSD drive warrants it being worth doing. I keep all of mine in the standard place, and I also keep, hang on, that's not them. All my models in here, blah, 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 blah. And I keep a copy on the N drive separately over here, which is almost full, and I'll have to address that. Rather than messing around with this stuff, because I've got a funny feeling when you do updates, that gets written over again. I just copied my entire model folder over. You can work out how to do that. Pasted it into there. This is where I'm currently locating it. As I said, I removed the top folder, moved it up to the top of my S drive. S drive is an SSD on a PCI NVMe. It cost about $100. Is that right? Yes, it did. Yes, I'm right. It only cost $100 for a 2 terabyte with PCI converter. I was quite impressed, and that's just as things are starting to get expensive. You'll have me just going quiet for moments while I read this. So the next step, check Python environment, Triton and Sage attention, because these are the things that are going to trip you up. PyTorch, Triton, and you need to know your Python environment. So I did checked what it was, and this is a very important thing that a lot of people don't quite understand about Comfyui Portable, and it has taken me a long time to figure it out properly. Let me talk you through exactly how the Python environment works, because I don't think there's enough information out there and people don't really get it. Your Python environment in Comfyui lives in here, Python embed. Now if I go Python V, there's the version of Python when I'm running it inside that folder. It's a venv. It's a little bit confusing, because what's going to confuse you is I also have Python running on my system. So if I'm anywhere else and I type Python V, look at that, different version. So everywhere else on my system, if I run Python, it's running a different virtual environment. It's running the system environment where I have Python that. It also runs pip from there. Can we do pip version? Yeah, there you go. But here's the weird thing, and why a lot of people get confused, or one of the reasons. If you do pip from here, I think you'll find it's exactly the same. Yeah, and look at that, and it's using Python. So this environment in Comfy doesn't have its own pip, so all the install is running from your main environment pip, but installing it to your Comfyui pip. You following that? Yeah, exactly. It's confusing. Now you want to add some extra confusion. I also have Conda on here, which is another Python environment. Whatever, you don't need to know that, but yeah, so there's a lot of different ways you can have different Python environments on your system, and the only one we care about here is the one in that folder. And you have to be very careful when you install anything or do anything or update anything, that you're updating it in that environment and not the one outside. But whenever you do update anything, you're using the pip from your fucking hell, yeah. And they just really don't give you much info about this, but I'll talk through it each step of the way. So when I wanted to see the Python version, I actually had to go into there, into this folder with Python embed, and then put in Python version there. So anything you want to see in that environment, you run from in there. But yet another caveat, sometimes you actually have to install stuff from the folder above by pointing it to there, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Comfyui version was the latest, obviously. I didn't have any qualms about that. That was fine. Now, I just always tend to double check things, and here you go. Here's an interesting next thing to talk about. So let's go into this folder now, and go. You have to do some things from there. So we're in this folder, and I want to find out what my Triton is, and you have to, in that folder, in that environment, in the Python embed environment. Now, when I did it last time, when I wrote this, sorry, I'm going to sound confusing. I'll really try not to be. This will actually show me something this time, or should. Now, the other important thing to note is that dot thing, because that is telling it to go into that directory. Actually, it's telling it something else, and I'm going to give you bad information now, but if you run it, you have to use that dot, and if you run Python from inside that, but I'm getting confused, but anyway, use it. Use this method if you want to see something in that folder from the folder above. Is it doing anything? Look at that now. What the fuck's going on now? All right, well, this just goes to show how confusing this is, because exactly the thing I thought would work didn't work. I'm going there now. So you're watching me fuck up live. That's brilliant, isn't it? It just goes to show this really can be quite a confusing thing. Now, if I do that, what if I do that? Still not. Hang on a minute. Don't tell me I haven't installed Triton. Right, here's the next thing for you guys to, you know, the good thing about messing up live is you get the opportunity to go, well, when things go weird and don't go according to plan, here's how you work it out. So go into your comfy user folder and your logs are here. And the log when you rebooted last is there. And the log when you rebooted possibly the time before that is there. So we need to look at the log I just booted, which is just a gobbledygook. It's basically exactly what you see here. It's getting saved into that log. And what I wanted to do was search for the word Triton. Yeah, that's right, because this is where I ran into the problem, because it's going, it's available. Found backend Triton, available true, disabled true. Oh. You know what? I might have just located the cause of a problem that I had to log with CUDA about one of his nodes. And I'm going to have to go with my tail between my legs, because he told me I got it wrong. And I went, well, I haven't. And I might have. Maybe my Triton is disabled. I don't know. People out there probably know better than me. So, you know, tell me what I'm doing wrong there. But it's working. So, as always, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Moving on. Where were we? No, not that. I might have to cut all that out of sheer embarrassment. No, I don't care. Everyone makes mistakes. It's important things admitting to it. No, while anywhere else in this Windows, yeah, I've told you all about that. So now this is where let's move on to getting Triton and Sage's attention. Yeah, about making mistakes. I believe in making mistakes. I believe, you know, Bill Gates, for all his horrific dramas that are going on at the moment, actually said a very smart thing way back when. And he said he wouldn't employ people unless they'd had massive fuck-ups, basically. Because it's how you handle the fuck-ups is what marks the character of a person, not how you handle the successes. And that is true of life. So, you know, don't be afraid of mistakes. They're actually where you discover a person's mettle. Or not. So let's get on to this and get away from my philosophizing. This is where things get nasty. Yeah, used to get nasty. Let's put that in capitals because it should be. But apparently now if you're on pytorch it's easy. Let's find out. Well, quite so. Here you go. This is very important. And this is where you have to go to. So first you go to Triton and it's this guy whose name I never remember. Wokdordo. I mean, where the hell did he get that from and what does it mean? Just bung it in there. Now I remember way back installing this last year and you had to do so many horrible things, and now you just have to actually read this, and you do have to read it, and then you have to interpret it and work out which part's relevant for you. And I'm going to leave that for you, but like I basically went, oh right, here RTX, that's me. This is official, supported by Triton and known as Float 8 on Ampere. Ampere is what the architecture. Or SM86, you often see that, and it always reminds me of microphones because I had an SM57. You often use them on stage. But anyway, on Ampere, it's not supported by official Triton. It's supported since la. So, you know, you're entering into that tech babble world where you go, I have absolutely no idea what I'm reading. Now, we're on the embedded version. That's correct. I have that folder. Don't run Python in there. Yeah, this is where it gets the confusing bit. Pip runs from outside. Yeah, I explain all that. And here we go. This is the bit I was trying to explain and then realised I don't know what I'm talking about. CD Python, then run ./Python. But remember to add ./ to run an executable. That's why. Run the executable in the current folder. So that's really important actually, but though it did seem to do it, but okay. Can't Conda, yeah, I told you about that. Anyway, so down here, and then we're down into the PyTorch area, and there you go. See, look at that. The best you can get at the moment is clearly Triton 3.6 and PyTorch 2.0. I didn't do this bit. I can't remember what I did actually. No, I did do this bit. Let's just go through my notes, for God's sake. See, I don't like having to do these videos because I just get confusing after the fact. Anyway, so I looked at that. Oh yeah, and then we'll bounce down here. We'll come back to the sage attention bit after. So installing Triton on Windows 10. I first went here, which is where I just showed you that information. I closed Comfy at this point, yeah, because I was going to install it. I went into there. Yeah, I did actually run that. So inside that folder, let's get back to where I was. Python embed. Inside there, I did actually run that, which is weird why it's not now showing it me. I'd love to know why. And as you can see, it installed it. So, and downloaded the wheel, and I seem to remember this was very quick. It was done in a moment. So yeah, I mean, there's ways. I'm not really an aficionado on using Python. I tend to go to Copilot here and ask it questions, and I won't bore you with all that because that's how I'd work out. I'd now go, oh, I need to use pip maybe to find out if it's installed. Go, no, I installed it. It said it's installed. You can see because I cut and paste that. But I won't bore you with all that. But you know, if you need help, use something like that, or use the LLMs to guide you through it. The Python embed. See, that Python embed sits alongside your main Comfy stuff, but this is where your environment runs from. So in there, I had to make that folder and copy those in as per the instructions on the site I just showed you, and that already existed. And yeah, don't confuse that one with that one, which already existed. So you had to make that one. This one I didn't have to make, but it said you might have to, but I didn't, and it had probably nothing in there, or one little thing, and I copied all this, and that was copied in from, I think it gave me a download or something, you know, from here somewhere. One of these, yeah, whichever one you needed. And then it gave you this script to test it, and I tested it. There you go, that's why. You can't really see it the normal way. I've got to test Triton, that is why, yeah. It's all coming back to me now. I bet it's in here, isn't it? Test Triton, look at that. So, Python, test, oops, Triton, PY. So that Python test Triton copied this from here after installing Triton, and that's how you check its. Okay, I didn't have that message before, I just had this before, so this is interesting because it now brings up this issue which I pointed out earlier and I hadn't seen before. But as you can see, if you see tensor 000 device CUDA, then it works, boom. But I've now had this message, so I'm going to have to come back to look at that, what the problem is. Cool, anyway, I'm glad I found that. That's thanks to you. Okay, so we get that. You kind of get what's going on there. And that meant Triton was installed. Triton 3.6 was now installed on my Comfy setup. Next, the beast, Sage Attention. Now, this is what killed my machine last time. And I had to wipe things and rebuild it. And then you had to go and install Microsoft Visual Studio and all the right C++ things and get them dead right and all these extra ones. It's, oh, absolute pig. Luckily, thanks to Wurzel, or whatever his freaking name is, Work Tordo. Yeah, now for the real bastard. Now, I couldn't work out, even from his notes on this, which one I was supposed to install. And he didn't actually tell you how to install it. He just kind of goes, you install that, and then you install Triton. Yeah, done that. Then you install a wheel. Well, how the hell do you install a wheel? And then I went here and it's like, what? October 25. What the hell's going on? Yeah, but anyway, it did turn out for me. I needed to download this because, as you can see, I'm on the minimum of, you have to have at least those things, or wherever it was it that one or that one? Well, anyway, you'd have to go through yourself and work it out. But go through that. It's kind of confusing, but you basically download that, and then what I actually had to do was, did I save a copy? So that was the correct wheel for me once I worked it all out. It's only 12 megabytes, so it's not huge. And one of the things that happened was you had to actually make that and build it yourself. And that's why you needed Visual Studio and C++. And people will still do that. And it takes ages, and it's prone to going wonky. And I don't even know if I need to leave it in there, but I copied it and dumped it there. And then back to that folder. And I hope I saved it. I can't believe I left out the actual installation of it. That's very naughty of me. Oh, here we go, here we go, here we go. Yeah, look at that. I've actually saved it. Good on me. And look at that dot thing there. So yeah, you need to put that. So whatever one works for you, you stick the wheel in that folder like I just showed you. And then you run it, make sure you put that / so it uses your local environment Python, but we'll use the pip from where it can access it, which is the main environment. All very confusing, just get used to doing it. So great, I did save that information. It's successfully installed. There was another way to test it. You download, same thing again, you download a bit of Python script. Look at that. It didn't. In this case, it doesn't matter because you're just testing, you're not installing something, but really should religiously get into that habit of putting that, I guess, would be a good approach. It showed the same dealio. Now this confused me because I went, hang on, max RTOL is 2, but it says it should be less than 0.5, which it is in all the other cases, and I guess that doesn't matter. So that was that done. Amazing. That was so much better than last year. At that point I got excited and then kind of had to calm myself down again. And now there's a couple of notes here. Don't build from source, download the wheel. Highly recommend do that. The other thing is his notes say this and it's wrong. I'm surprised he says it. To use Sage Attention, you just need to add use Sage Attention when starting Comfy. You don't want to do that, and the reason is because you want to selectively use Sage Attention. There's a lot of situations in ComfyUI where you don't want it running. So the way you use Sage Attention is node by node, and for example, here it gets shoved in on the NAG. So in the memory NAG group, passes the model through Sage Attention, and it's set there auto. I don't fuff with it. I probably could be more precise, but I don't bother. I just let it work it out for itself. So far so good, that's fine. So don't put it in the startup, even if people say to do it. I really wouldn't. Also a note he put in there was Radio Attention is faster than Sage Attention, and I used that and installed it on the old one. I won't install it here because it's better. Also stick with the herd. Whatever the herd's doing, go with that, unless you're some egghead tech genius and know what the hell you're doing. Just stick with the herd, because if you need help, then you get it. And if you have one thing in there weird that no one else has weird in theirs, it can affect so many things. So you need to kind of go with the herd. Believe it or not, we are herd creatures, and that's very apparent, nowhere more so than in open source world, which is why we keep asking each other questions on how to do stuff. I used it in Infinite Talk. Yeah, there's a radial attention node for that. So if I ever go back to Infinite Talk, which is really good for lip sync, but you know, it's WAN, so it's too slow for me. But I did really like it. So it's possible I'll end up back there for some things. But so far, LTX has been pretty good. Okay, so now to install all the custom nodes. Let's see how long I've talked for. Christ, nearly an hour already, so I'm going to try and make this quick. This will be a long fiddly process that I recommend just doing as you go. Yes. I looked through my list and in the end just went, oh my God, I can't be bothered with it. One of the ones that has already given me some grief is some of them are huge. Like, I've said this before somewhere. When you look in your custom nodes, some of them really annoyingly save like that's 10 gig. If they're under like 2 megabytes, that's normal. If they're into the gigabytes, then they're saving their checkpoints in the folders, which frankly is really annoying, because I mean, maybe they have to for some reason, but I just copied them all into here. I don't even know if I need them. You can see when I installed them last, but I copied them over, and then I started getting errors with Control X because it needed certain install method, and I had to come back and look at it. But most of them you can just install literally here. So you can, this is one way, instead of using the manager if you want to. Have you noticed this trick? If you're in Windows, I only learnt this a few months ago, but if you've gone in Explorer to Windows, and you can just go there and type CMD, press return, and it opens. That's really cool. I didn't even know you could do that. Anyway, you can just git clone into here, literally into here, and it will save all the git information above, but it will bang it in here. So I'm actually using that method a lot now, rather than this, because half the time this isn't working for me, but I don't want to install the old manager yet because the boot up speed is way faster. Yeah, so that's the way to deal with it. You might have to copy any of your old custom nodes that are huge. What I suggest is you install it and then try and figure out what folders hold the models and copy that over on its own, because otherwise don't just copy it over, because you'll either bring old problems over or it just won't run properly. So you actually need to do the git clone or install it, figure out what it's actually called and install it from here. I don't even know what. This is another thing, I don't really like this. It's not very good at searching at all. Like, oh, great, no idea, doesn't even know what it is. How is that helpful? But anyway, I'm not complaining about Comfy, they're great. They give us all this stuff for free, and that needs to be respected. Test ComfyUI and start installing custom nodes. So now I have that. I think that covers all of it. There might be one other thing not in there, yeah. So that's what I'm up to, and honestly, sweet. I like it. Time to test Comfy again. So yeah, I've installed a few things. I don't add the memory switches. Don't add things in until you've got a problem and have to fix it. That's my recommendation, because disabling this, they've designed these things for a reason, and they'll be improving them when they're not working. People will be complaining and logging GitHub issues about it, and it slowly get there. But it's frustrating when you're the guinea pig, but that's the game, that's the deal. I removed this node manager. Yeah, when you first start it up, you won't, as I said, you won't have access to this, and you'll wonder why, and you'll wonder how to get it, and you'll go searching and you won't know, and all you have to do is put the switch in there, and the version of it pops up. But you do have to install it, otherwise it pops up and doesn't work at all. So that's even weirder, because it will show but nothing will install, and the reason is because you do have to. You're really at the point you need to start working it out for yourself. 45 minutes in, 50 minutes in, and I'm like, yeah, figure it out for yourself. Get lost. Yeah, sorry, no, but it's I don't mean that. I'm trying to be helpful, but it's also an ongoing. Everything's changing all the time, and you never know when something's going to break and what breaks it. And ComfyUI, I don't know what breaks it either. That's why they have Git issues on the hub. Then I had to start looking at my errors, and I've run into errors. And the other problem is when you update ComfyUI underlying infrastructure, you need to really test all your old stuff and go through it all. Partly just by loading it up will show you what's missing, and then you can kind of go, oh, right, manage extensions, what's not installed or missing nodes. I did install that because I've got a funny feeling that's advertising, and I don't like it. I don't want any of those things. These are API advertising, and this is where it's kind of going now a bit with Comfy as well, I noticed. Now they're getting funding, but so be it. That's the world we live in. Business drives everything. Yeah, not sure what issue it is. So yeah, I still haven't solved this one yet. I tried to fiddle in with a few things and went, why am I even looking? Swap the node out, use something else, come back. But that little problem we just had back here, I reckon it might be that, so I'm going to investigate that, or not, when I have to. I started making a load of notes trying to solve it. I highly recommend you get... I should mention this because Notepad... Now, I really like Notepad++. It's fantastic. But watch out. Because the bloody Chinese hacked it, put malware in it, and started doing God knows what. And Notepad only noticed the version before this one. So the Chinese CCP have been all over our machines via Notepad++, and they've only just figured it out and put that in. So that's scary, but yeah, whatever. You can't hide these days, so getting butt raped by the Chinese is just fucking week 2, isn't it? You know, oh, really? Okay, well, good luck with that. Hope you try and leave my bank account alone. Anyway, moving on. I'm wittering now, and you're probably not. There's probably no one even listening. That's nearly an hour. I'll drop it off a bit. What else do you need to know? There was some minor issues. You need to check everything works. I tested everything. I test with the quick stuff first, in image, and then I installed. This is all my old notes that I was storing, waiting for the day I had to upgrade this, and I'm so glad I waited rather than going back in the day when it was a nightmare. And the good news is RTX 2.3 is fantastic, a lot better. It's got its weak points, but it runs faster on my machine. It runs slightly better. I'm tweaking it. And to be honest, all you need to do, I will do a video on it, probably in a week after I've really settled in. I'll talk about it in another video, because pretty much if you change those, you can run with RTX 2.3. And I think that brings me to the end of a rather long-winded and philosophical The End. Mine's running. Now, I will reiterate, I can't give you technical support. I will be helpful, so feel free to ask. I have just said ask questions. So yeah, ask questions. But if you're expecting technical support, I'm not your man for that. If you're expecting like the stuff I do already, yeah, I'll give you any help I can. But also, you really need to read it all. This is a guide to what I went through to do it. It could be completely different, and it will be based on your hardware and your setup. And I think that will do for today. See you next time. Thanks for coming.